Aaron opened his eyes slowly. Everything was blurry. His head felt heavy, and a sharp pain ran through his shoulder. The sound of sparks and broken metal filled the air around him. He was lying inside what was left of the shuttle. Smoke rose from the broken panels. The lights flickered once, and then died. Outside the cracked window, strange tall trees moved gently in the wind. The sky above was greenish, with 3 small moons visible through the haze. Aaron pulled himself up. His arm hurt, but he was alive. He looked around. Seats were empty. The shuttle was supposed to carry 6 crew members, but now only silence remained. He called out each name, but no one answered. Only his voice echoed inside the wreckage. He was the only one left. He opened the emergency pack, grabbed a small med kit, and wrapped his arm. He took a flashlight and a foldable tool blade. Then he climbed out of the shuttle. The planet was humid and quiet. Strange plants covered the ground. The air smelled like wet earth and something sweet, like fruit. There were no signs of dangerous animals, at least for now. He needed shelter, food, water, a signal beacon. He moved slowly, searching for a safe place to rest. After walking for half an hour, he found a spot near a shallow stream where tall roots formed a natural wall. It would be enough for now. He set down his bag and started building a small shelter using broken branches and parts from the shuttle. It wasn't perfect, but it would keep the rain out. When night came, the sky turned violet and stars appeared. Tiny lights blinked in the trees like fireflies. Aaron sat near the stream and looked up. No help was coming tonight. He thought of Earth, his home, his friends. He whispered a short message into the small recorder. "If anyone hears this, my name is Arun. I was part of Survey Team 9. My shuttle crashed on an unknown jungle planet. I'm still alive. I'll try to survive until help comes. End message." He set the device to repeat the signal and placed it on a rock near the stream. The night was silent, but he didn't sleep well. Strange sounds came from the trees, clicks, howls, and whispers. He kept his tool blade close, just in case. The next morning, Arun woke early. He was hungry and thirsty. He took small sips from his water bottle and went to the stream to refill it. He also collected some fruits from nearby trees. They looked a little like apples, but were blue and soft. He bit into one carefully. It was sweet and safe. As he stood near the stream, washing his face, he felt something, a soft sound. A rustle behind him. He turned quickly. Nothing. But then, from between the trees, someone stepped out. It was not human. She stood tall, almost his height, with smooth gray-blue skin, long dark hair, and large black eyes. She wore light fabric, made of leaves and woven vines. Her face was calm, but her body was ready to move. She carried a long stick, like a staff, but did not raise it. Aaron froze. The alien woman tilted her head. They stood like that for a long moment, just looking at each other. Then she said something. It was in a language he didn't understand. Soft, musical tones. He shook his head slowly and raised his hands, showing he had no weapon. He took one step back. She didn't move. He pointed at himself. "Arun," he said clearly. She watched him. He pointed again. "Arun." She seemed to repeat the sound in her language. Not perfect, but close. He pointed at her, asking without words. She paused, then touched her chest. "Nira." "Nira," Arun repeated. The alien woman gave a small nod. They stood there in silence again. Then Nira reached into a small pouch at her side and took out a piece of fruit. She placed it gently on a stone near the stream and stepped back. Aaron didn't move for a while. Then slowly, he stepped forward and picked up the fruit. It was the same kind he had eaten earlier. He gave a small smile and nodded. Thank you." She didn't reply, but her eyes softened. Without a word, Nira turned and disappeared into the trees. Aaron stood there for a moment, unsure what had just happened. An alien, a real one. Not a photo from a drone, not a story in a file. A real, living being. And she had helped him. He took the fruit back to his shelter and sat down. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But one thing was clear now. He was not alone. On this planet, and whoever Nira was, she had chosen not to hurt him. That gave him hope. The sun rose slowly over the jungle, casting soft orange light through the thick trees. Arun opened his eyes and sat up in his small shelter. His body still ached, but his mind was sharper today. Yesterday had changed everything. He had seen someone, not just anyone, an alien, a woman named Nira. She had given him fruit and left without harm. That meant she didn't see him as a threat. Maybe she was even friendly. Aaron walked toward the stream again. He looked around carefully. The forest was quiet. The air was warm and filled with the smell of damp leaves and flowers. He checked the rocks near the water, but Nira was not there. Still, something had changed. The silence felt less lonely. He cleaned his face, filled his bottle, and returned to his shelter. He used sharp stones and broken metal pieces to make a stronger wall. If this planet was going to be his home for a while, he needed to stay safe. Later in the day, he gathered more fruit and dry wood. As he worked, he kept glancing at the trees. Was she watching? That night, he made a small fire and sat beside it, holding the blade tool in one hand. The stars appeared again, and strange glowing insects flew in circles above him. He leaned back and listened to the jungle sounds. Then he heard it, soft footsteps. He sat up straight. Quiet, careful. From behind a wide tree, Nira stepped out, once again. This time, she came a little closer. Aaron stayed still. She looked at the fire, then at him. Her large black eyes reflected the flames. Slowly, she stepped forward and sat on a flat stone nearby. Aaron smiled, trying to show he was happy to see her. She didn't smile back, but she nodded once. Aaron picked up a fruit and offered it to her. She looked surprised but took it carefully and sniffed it. She spoke a word in her language. Aaron didn't understand, but he repeated it. She pointed to the fruit and said it again. "Fala," she said. "Fala," Aaron repeated. She nodded. It was a simple beginning. For the next hour, they exchanged basic words. Aaron pointed to things, water, fire, hand, tree, and Nira gave him her words for them. In return, she repeated the English ones. It was like two children learning to talk again, but they both tried. They laughed once when he tried to say a long word. She spoke and his voice cracked. It was the first time she smiled, just a little. It made Arun feel less alone. Before leaving, Nira reached into her pouch and took out a small carved stone. She handed it to him. It had a symbol on it, curved lines like water waves. Arun took it gently and nodded in thanks. Then, without speaking, she stood and disappeared into the trees again. The next few days became a pattern. Nira came to visit for a short time every evening. They shared fruits, sounds, and gestures. Aaron started learning her words for sun, moon, night, eat, and sleep. She learned his words, too. They laughed sometimes, and even though they could not speak full sentences, they began to understand each other. Aaron also worked hard during the day. He built a stronger shelter, made better tools, and even created a small signal pole from old shuttle parts. It wasn't strong, but it might send a message to passing ships. He also started noticing the jungle more. He saw strange animals, some like birds, some like walking fish. The plants moved when the wind didn't. There were dangers, but they kept away from his shelter. Maybe they smelled the smoke. Maybe they feared the fire. Every night, Aaron hoped Nira would return, and every night, she did. One evening, while they were sitting near the stream, Arun noticed Nira was quiet. She looked tired. Her long dark hair was messy and filled with leaves and small bits of bark. She tried pulling them out with her fingers, but struggled. She sighed softly and looked away. Aaron watched her for a moment. Then, very gently, he took out his old travel comb from his kit. He held it up to show her, then pointed to her hair. Nira looked at him with surprise. He waited for her response. After a long pause, she gave a small nod and turned her back to him. Aaron moved closer, slowly, and began to comb her hair. He worked gently, removing the leaves and untangling the knots. The comb passed through thick strands, and he used water from the stream to clean it properly. Nira didn't move. She sat still, quiet. It took time, but finally her hair was smooth again. When he stopped, she turned around slowly. Her eyes were wide. She touched her hair, then looked at Aaron with a serious expression. "I know what this means," she said softly in her language, then repeated it in broken English. Aaron blinked. "What? What does it mean?" But she didn't explain. She stood up quietly and looked at him for a long moment. Then she whispered something, placed her hand gently on his, and walked into the trees once again. Aaron sat there, still holding. The comb. He didn't understand her words completely, but in that moment he felt something had changed, something important. The air was warm, and the jungle sang with soft sounds, birds calling, leaves rustling, small insects buzzing near the stream. Aaron sat quietly near his shelter, still holding the small comb in his hand. Nira had left more than an hour ago, but her words stayed in his mind. "I know what this means." She had spoken them clearly, not with full English, but enough for him to understand. Yet he didn't know why she said it. What did it mean to her people? To her? He looked at the comb again, then at the path she had taken through the trees. Was it wrong to touch her hair, or was it something important, something sacred? Aaron stood up and walked slowly to the stream. He washed his hands, his face, and the comb. Then he sat on a flat stone and waited. Evening came. The sun dropped behind. The tall trees. Soft light painted the sky orange and pink. He didn't know if Nira would return, but she did. As the stars began to shine above, Nira stepped from the forest like a shadow turning into light. She was calm, but her face was thoughtful. Her long hair was now tied back with a woven leaf string, and her eyes stayed on Aaron. He stood up slowly and greeted her with a soft smile. She didn't sit right away. Instead, she walked to him, then looked into his eyes. She spoke in her own language first, words Aaron couldn't understand, but her voice was gentle. Then she pointed to her hair and said slowly, "You cleaned. You touched. Sacred place." Aaron's eyes widened. He nodded once, trying to show respect. "I didn't mean harm. I just wanted to help." She gave a slow nod. "Help. Yes, but help. Deep." Aaron tilted his head. "Deep?" She pointed to her chest. "In heart." There was a pause. She sat down, and so did Aaron. Nira picked up a small stick and drew a symbol on the dirt between them. It looked like a circle with two lines crossing through it. She tapped it twice. "Bond." Arun listened closely. She drew two smaller circles beside it. 1, 2. Then she connected them with a line. "Together." Aaron began to understand. She said slowly, "In my world, only two who share life touch hair. It is old way. Very old." He felt a rush of realization. What he thought was a kind gesture was something much more serious to her people. He looked at her, trying to find the right words. Nira, I didn't know. I didn't mean to break your custom. She looked into his eyes again. You didn't break. You followed. Without knowing. You chose. He was silent. The jungle around them seemed quieter now. Aaron asked carefully, Does that mean you and me are now bonded? Nira gave a small nod. Yes. In my world, you are now my chosen. Aaron's heart beat faster. He didn't know what to say. He hadn't planned this, hadn't even imagined something like this happening. But deep down, he didn't feel regret. He felt peace and connection. Still, he asked, Are you okay with that? Nira gave a soft smile, her first real smile since they met. Yes, I know you are not from my sky, but heart does not care for stars. It only feels kindness. Her words were simple, but they touched Aaron deeply. They sat in silence for a while. Nira took a small piece of cloth from her pouch. Inside it was a smooth stone, carved in the shape of a leaf. She placed it in Aaron's hand. This is sign of bond, she said. We wear it. He looked at it. It was warm from her touch, and the carving was delicate. He nodded. Thank you. She took another stone, the same shape, and tied it around her own wrist with a string. Aaron did the same. Now they each wore one. Two people from different worlds, bound by one simple act of kindness. The days that followed were different. Nira now stayed longer. She brought Aaron new fruits, roots, and herbs. She taught him which plants healed cuts, which leaves made tea, and which flowers kept away insects. In return, Aaron showed her how to start fire with metal, how to purify water using a simple filter, and how to build stronger shelter walls. They worked together without speaking much. They didn't need many words now. The bond between them had grown. One afternoon, as they sat beside the stream, Aaron asked, Do your people know about me? Nira nodded slowly. Not yet. I come alone. They live far, in Stone Forest. Will they accept me? He asked. She didn't answer right away, then said, Some may not, but some will see your heart. He sighed, understanding the meaning. Trust was not easy between species. Even on Earth, people had trouble trusting their own kind. This would be even harder. Still, he wanted to try. If they let me come, will you speak for me? He asked. Nira smiled again. I will stand beside you. That night, as they watched the stars, Aaron looked at her and said, I never thought I would find a friend here. Nira looked at him, her voice soft. You didn't find. You made. The bond had started with a simple gesture, a hand through, tangled hair, a moment of care. But now it had become something deeper. Aaron didn't know what the future would bring. Maybe help would come. Maybe he would leave this planet one day. Or maybe he would stay. Because on this strange, beautiful world, he had found something rare. Not just survival, he had found connection. The morning sun shone gently through the trees, painting soft golden lines on the forest floor. Birds sang strange but beautiful songs as small glowing insects floated near the leaves. Aaron stepped out of his shelter and stretched his arms. He felt different today. Not just in his body, but in his heart. The stone Nira had given him was still tied around his wrist. He touched it softly. Her words still echoed in his mind. You touched sacred place. Now, we are bonded. He didn't fully understand the depth of her world's customs, but he knew one thing. It was not something small. It was not something to take lightly. Nira arrived later that morning. This time, she didn't come silently. She called out his name from a short distance and walked toward him with a calm face. Arun greeted her with a smile, and together they sat under a tree near the stream. They shared fruit quietly. Then Arun finally asked what had been on his mind since that evening. "Neera," he said, "I want to understand. What does this bond truly mean to your people?" Neera looked at him with thoughtful eyes. She touched the stone on her wrist and took a deep breath. "In my world," she began slowly, "we do not bond with words. We bond with action. When someone cares, truly cares, they give time, safety, and touch." Arun nodded. "Like when I helped clean your hair?" "Yes," she said. "That is one of the oldest signs. In our stories long ago, two souls would join through simple care. Cleaning the hair of another is more than kindness. It is a promise, a sign of trust and closeness." Arun listened, carefully, his heart calm but alert. "But I didn't know. I didn't mean to give a promise." Neera gave a small smile. "That is why it is special. You gave it without asking for anything. That is why it is true." He looked down at the ground. "So, in your world, we are now like partners?" She nodded. "Not in the way of children or rules, but in spirit. If we were in my village, people would see us as joined." Arun was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, "Will they accept me?" Neera's smile faded slightly. "Some will fear. Some may not understand. You are from the stars, from another path. But the elders listen to actions. If they see your heart, some may open theirs." Aaron stood up and walked to the stream. He picked up a smooth stone and skipped it across the water. "I don't know if I'll ever leave this planet," he said. "But if I stay, I want to be accepted. Not just by you, but by your people too." Neera stood beside him. "Then we will go to them. Together." He turned to her. "Will they allow me to speak?" "No," she said gently, "but I will speak for you." 2 days later, Arun and Neera began their journey. They packed dried fruits, water, and strong leaves to cover themselves from the sun. Neera moved through the jungle like she knew every path. She walked quietly, her eyes always watching, ears always listening. Aaron followed her carefully, carrying his own pack. Along the way, they crossed glowing rivers, strange mossy hills, and forests where trees hummed softly in the wind. Every part of this world felt alive, and yet peaceful. At night, they slept under large leaf canopies. Neera taught Arun how to make jungle tea using red flowers and soft roots. He taught her how to build a stronger fire using broken wires from his old gear. They worked like one. Each day, Aaron asked more questions about her people. "What is your tribe called?" he asked. "El Nari," she said. "It means people of the quiet strength." "Do they all live together?" "Yes, in Stone Forest. Old place carved by time. Only a few remain now. Many left for the sky long ago." That made Arun pause. "Your people left this planet?" She nodded. "Some did. Some stayed. I stayed. My spirit is in the trees." He smiled. "I think mine is starting to grow roots, too." On the 3rd day, they reached the edge of a high hill. From the top, Arun saw it. Below, hidden between great trees and covered in vines, stood a circle of tall stone towers. They were not buildings in the human style. They looked like ancient, carved cliffs, with homes and doorways grown into their sides. Waterfalls ran down their faces. Bridges of rope and wood connected the towers. It was beautiful. "That is my home," Neera said softly. "The stone forest." As they walked down, toward it, Aaron felt his heartbeat rise. He wasn't afraid, but he was alert. He knew this moment would matter. When they reached the entrance, Two tall Elnari guards stepped forward. They carried long staffs and wore robes made of layered plant fibers. Their eyes studied Aaron closely. Nira stepped forward, placed a hand on her stone bond, and said a few words in her language. The guards listened, glanced at each other, and slowly nodded. They stepped aside. Aaron and Nira entered the village. Children peeked out from behind trees. Elders watched from above, their eyes full of questions. No one spoke to Aaron, but no one stopped him either. He stayed close to Nira. She guided him to the center of the village, where a wide platform sat under a great tree with glowing leaves. There, 5 elders sat on carved stones, their faces calm but serious. Nira stepped forward and began to speak in her native tongue. Her voice was firm, steady. She placed her hand on Aaron's arm and lifted their joined stones to show the bond. The elders listened. Aaron couldn't understand the words, but he saw their eyes change slightly, curiosity replacing doubt, interest replacing fear. Nira finished, speaking, and stepped back. The elder in the center stood. He looked at Aaron carefully, then gave a slow nod. He said something to Nira, who turned and smiled at Aaron. They allow you to stay. For now. They will watch. They will decide. Aaron let out a breath of relief. That's all I ask. And as night fell over the stone forest, Aaron stood beside Nira under the glowing tree. He looked at her and whispered, "Thank you." Nira's eyes were gentle. "You cleaned my hair, Arun. You opened the door. Now we walk through it together." Aaron had been living in the stone forest village for nearly a week now. Though the elders had allowed him to stay, the feeling among the others was mixed. Some villagers watched him with open curiosity, while others kept their distance. Children smiled and laughed when he showed them simple tricks with fire or taught them how to whistle using a blade of grass, but many adults were still unsure about the human from the sky. Nira stayed close to him every day. She spoke to others on his behalf, helped him understand their rules, and slowly taught him more of their language. Arun tried his best to learn and to respect their ways. He helped build shelters, collected water, and even cooked simple food, using jungle herbs. But peace was fragile. One afternoon, while Aaron was helping an elder carry baskets of fruit, a loud horn echoed through the village. The sound was deep and urgent. Everyone stopped moving. Heads turned toward the forest. Nira's eyes became sharp. She dropped her basket and ran toward the village center. Arun followed her quickly. A scout had returned, his robe torn, his face scratched. He was out of breath and shaking. He spoke in rushed words. Nira translated. For Arun, a predator. It has come close, too close. It attacked 2 gathering groups. One is missing, one is hurt. Arun felt a chill go through his body. What kind of predator? Nira's voice was serious. It is called a grakil, strong skin, sharp senses, walks low and fast. Not many remain, but one is near. The elders gathered. The villagers whispered among themselves. Some wanted to hide, others wanted to leave the forest and search for a new home. The fear was real. Aaron stepped forward. "I want to help," he said. The crowd grew quiet. One of the elders stood up. He was tall and old, with silver hair tied in braids. He spoke in slow words. Nira translated. "You are not of this world. You do not know the Grakil. Why risk your life?" Arun looked around, then said clearly, "Because I am part of this village now. I wear the bond. I share your food, your shelter, your fears. I won't run." The elder watched him for a long time. Then he gave a small nod. "You will go with Nira and 2 hunters. But be warned, the Grakil does not forgive." The group left before sunset. Nira walked in front, holding her spear tightly. 2 hunters followed beside Arun. They moved carefully through the forest. listening for every sound. The sky turned dark orange, and the wind grew quiet. Nira pointed to broken trees ahead. "Here! It passed through." The group slowed down. Aaron noticed deep claw marks on tree trunks, large footprints in the mud. The ground was torn, and strange dark stains were on the leaves. Suddenly, one of the hunters raised a hand. Silence. From the thick bushes, a low growl came, then a flash of movement. The grackle burst out, huge and fast. It had thick black skin like armor, long claws, and glowing yellow eyes. Its mouth opened wide with rows of sharp teeth. The hunters jumped to the side. Nira threw her spear, but the creature dodged it. Aaron didn't have a weapon strong enough, but he had an idea. "Lead it to the canyon," he shouted. "Trap it!" Nira understood. "Yes, this way." They ran, leading the creature through the trees, weaving between thick roots and fallen logs. The grackle chased them, crashing through everything in its path. Aaron ran faster than he ever had. Ahead was the canyon, a deep crack in the land with sharp rocks below. "Now!" Nira shouted. The hunters split to the left and right. Aaron and Nira ran straight toward the canyon edge, then jumped aside at the last second. The grackle couldn't stop in time. With a loud roar, it slid across the wet ground and fell into the canyon, crashing into the rocks far below. The forest was silent again. Aaron lay on the ground, breathing hard. Nira sat beside him, her face full of sweat, but calm. "You did well," she said. "You think fast." Aaron smiled. "You run fast." She laughed softly. The hunters returned and looked over the edge. One of them gave a nod. "It is done." When the group returned to the village, they were greeted with cheers. The children ran forward, and even the quiet elders stepped out to see them. Word spread quickly. The human had helped defeat the grackle. That night, the villagers lit bright fires and placed glowing flowers around the trees. Food was shared. Songs were sung, and old stories were told once again. It was a celebration of safety, of courage, and of unity. One of the elders stood and raised his hand. He pointed to Arun and spoke loud enough for all to hear. Nira translated his words. "The one from the stars stood with us in our fear. He did not turn away. He is no longer outsider. He is El Nari now." Arun's heart filled with quiet joy. He had come to this world by accident, but now he was no longer alone. He was part of something. Nira looked at him with warm eyes. "This is the meaning, Arun. Not just the bond, but standing with each other when it matters." He nodded. "I understand now." The days after the grackle attack were filled with quiet rebuilding. The villagers repaired broken shelters and cleared the fallen trees from the paths. Arun worked alongside Nira and the hunters, carrying wood and stones, learning more about the El Nari ways. Though the threat had passed, everyone remained alert. Aaron felt a new respect growing between him and the villagers. They no longer saw him only as a human from another world. Instead, they saw a friend, someone who had stood with them in danger. But challenges were not over. One morning, as the sun filtered through the high leaves, Nira approached Arun with a serious look. "There is a test," she said softly. "The elders want to see if you belong truly, to see if your heart is strong." Arun frowned. "A test?" Nira nodded. "A trial. It is old. It shows courage, skill, and trust. If you pass, the village will fully accept you." He thought for a moment. "What is the trial?" Nira looked down. "You must go into the deep woods, find the Heartstone, bring it back. It is guarded." Arun's eyes widened. "Guarded by what?" Nira's voice lowered. "Creatures, spirits. Not all are alive. Some are shadows of the past." He swallowed. "I want to try." Nira gave a small smile. "I will go with you." That afternoon, they prepared for the journey. Aaron packed water, dried food, and a small knife. Nira carried her spear and tied a pouch with healing herbs to her belt. The villagers gathered to watch as they stepped into the dense forest beyond the village. The trees grew taller here, their trunks thick and covered with moss. The air smelled cooler, and shadows moved strangely. Nira led the way, stepping carefully over roots and stones. Aaron followed close. "Deep woods are different," she said, quietly. "Many have gone and not returned." Aaron felt a shiver, but did not stop. As they walked deeper, the forest grew quiet. No birds sang, no insects buzzed. They reached a clearing where the ground was covered with smooth black stones. In the center stood a large rock, taller than both of them, the Heartstone. Its surface shimmered with soft light, as if it breathed, but the air around it felt cold. Suddenly, dark shapes rose from the ground around the stone, shadowy figures. With glowing eyes, Aaron's heart pounded. "Stay close," Nira whispered. The figures moved silently. Circling them, Aaron gripped his knife. One shadow stepped forward, its eyes glowing bright yellow. It did not speak, but reached out with long fingers. Nira raised her spear. "Protect!" She charged, but the shadow vanished into smoke. Aaron realized the shadows were not physical. They were spirits, tests of fear and courage. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and reached out his hand to touch the Heartstone. A cold wave passed through him. Images flashed. Memories of his life on Earth, moments of joy and sorrow, faces of those he loved. He felt a voice inside, soft and kind. "Face your past. Trust your heart." Aaron opened his eyes. The shadows paused. Nira moved beside him, steady and strong. Together they stood near the Heartstone. Aaron reached into his pack and pulled out the small carved stone Nira had given him, the bond symbol. He held it tightly. The shadows began to fade, melting into the air. The clearing brightened. The trial was ending. Aaron smiled. "We did it," he said. Nira nodded. "You passed. Your heart is true." When they returned to the village, the elders awaited them. The chief elder stepped forward, his eyes full of respect. He spoke slowly, and Nira translated. "You have walked the path few dare. You faced the spirits of the deep woods and returned. You have shown courage and trust. The village welcomes you not only as a friend, but as one of us." The villagers cheered. Aaron looked around, feeling warmth like never before. Nira took his hand and squeezed it gently. "You belong here," she said softly. "Because you have chosen to." Aaron nodded. He knew then that this world was no longer strange to him. It was home. The stone forest was quiet in the early morning light. Arun stood near the edge of the village, looking out at the horizon. The trees stretched far and wide, their leaves glowing softly in the dawn. The air was fresh and cool, filled with the sounds of birds waking to a new day. Aaron's heart was heavy. Today, a ship from his own world was coming to rescue him. He had sent signals from the crash site, and after weeks of waiting, the rescue team had finally arrived. They were on their way now, and soon they would reach the stone forest. He did not know what to feel. The thought of returning home was both comforting and frightening. He missed Earth, his family, his friends, the familiar sky. But here, in this strange world, he had found something unexpected. A bond that went beyond words, beyond stars. Nira approached quietly. She wore her simple clothes and the stone bracelet they shared. Her eyes held the calm strength he had come to trust. "Aaron," she said softly, "the time has come." He turned to her and smiled sadly. "I know." They walked together to the center of the village, where the elders waited. The village was alive with activity, people preparing for the arrival of the ship, children playing, hunters sharpening their spears. The chief elder stepped forward and spoke to Aaron. Nira translated carefully. "You have been brave. You have shown kindness, courage, and respect. The bond you share with Nira is strong, but the choice is yours." Aaron nodded. He felt the weight of those words. The rescue ship would take him back to Earth. But would he want to go? He thought of the long journey home, the life he had left behind, and the unknown future waiting there. He also thought of Nira, of the tribe, and the peaceful life he had found here. That night, Aaron sat by the stream where he had first met Nira. The water flowed gently, reflecting the stars above. He took the small stone from his wrist and held it in his hand. Nira joined him silently, sitting close. "I don't know what to choose," Aaron said quietly. Nira looked at him with understanding. "There is no wrong choice, only your choice." He smiled faintly. "You make this hard." She laughed softly. "Because you matter." They sat together, watching the night sky. The next morning, the ship's lights appeared through the trees. The village gathered to watch. Aaron stood tall, his heart steady. The rescue team stepped out, their suits bright and clean. They looked at Aaron with surprise and relief. Aaron greeted them warmly, but knew his answer. He turned to Nira and the elders. "I choose to stay," he said clearly. A quiet hush fell over the crowd. One of the rescuers stepped forward. "You're sure? This is your home." Aaron nodded. "Earth is my home, but this is my family now." The elders smiled, and Nira took his hand. The rescuers respected his decision and prepared to leave. Before the ship lifted off, Aaron looked back at the stone forest. He whispered, "Thank you." Days turned into weeks. Aaron and Nira grew closer. He learned more of the Elnari ways, their stories, and their dreams. He helped teach others about Earth, and they shared knowledge in return. The bond that began with a simple act of kindness, cleaning hair, had become something powerful and real. Aaron knew his journey was only beginning. He was not just a human lost in the stars. He was part of a new story, one of friendship, trust, and hope, and that was worth everything.